Today, I want to talk to you about Jungian archetypes. This book I have in front of me is The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious. This book is really good. Anything by Jung is life-changing. Anything by Jung is very deep, very mystical. And this book in particular had a very deep impact on what I thought I knew before. And, you know, I've read Jung before. I've extensively studied him before. But I don't think the other books quite explain these concepts properly. And to explain archetypes, you have to break down what we comprehend. How do we communicate? How do we express ourselves? How do we understand things? And it all comes back to the idea of symbols. It all comes back to the idea of forms, the idea of patterns, the idea that a certain religious relic, I'm wearing a cross right now, can evoke a certain emotion in someone. Whereas the same symbol evokes nothing in someone else. And there's something to be said about images. There's something to be said about symbols. There's something to be said about how these images and symbols affect people differently. And this is basically what the book is trying to uncover. This is what the book is talking about. It's talking about how the symbols in our lives affect us, how these symbols form into images, and these images become idealized forms that we begin to shoot for. So think of what you think a successful person is. It might be vastly influenced by what you see online. It might be influenced by what you saw when you were growing up. It might be influenced by your parents. It might be an amalgamation of all of these things. Whatever you see the ideal form as, whatever you see the ideal life as, that is formed by a collection of images, a collection of things that impress onto your mind, and it dictates a lot of your decisions. And once you understand this, then you understand cultural differences. Then you understand why certain rites of passages were in cultures, because it was a symbol of you moving on to the next one. It's honestly something that we lack today, and it's probably a big reason why so many young men are so lost, because we're basically dropped into the world, we're babied, and then the day we turn 18, everything has to become serious, and we're like, well, I don't feel like I earned it. I don't feel like I deserve it. And this is a very interesting thing, and that's probably a topic for another video, but again, we can get so lost in the weeds when it comes to symbols. We can get so lost in the weeds when it comes to archetypes. But what I want you to understand is that we are controlled by images. We are controlled by things that we observed far beyond what we can remember. And when you start to get to the bottom of these things, then you can start to see how to transform yourself, how to turn these images that limit you into images that you can use to your benefit. And the first section of the book is devoted to the anima animus archetype. And this is something that you see really coming to a head today, because I feel like it's never been such a precarious position when it comes to gender, when it comes to relationships between the genders. And everyone and their mother will tell you about how bad the dating market is today, but no one is really hitting at the main issue. The main issue is the anima animus. The main issue is not coming to terms with the opposite gender in yourself, the opposite expression in yourself, what you view the other gender to be. And these are very much formed in early childhood. You can see very easily through the Oedipus complex, which is Freud's, really one of his bigger theories. But it goes into archetypes as well, because what your mother imbues on you, what your mother shows you to be a woman is what you seek for in relationships. And this is what develops the man that needs the overbearing woman. This is what develops the savior complex. This is what develops all of these complex issues that men can't seem to get over, that force them to struggle in relationships. And it's very interesting to start analyzing the traits that you look for in a partner and start seeing them in yourself. Start seeing them in your mother, in your father, and start seeing, like, you know what? Whatever this person I'm looking for, whatever trait they have that I'm looking for, I need to first find it in myself, because I need to give myself that emotion. I need to give myself that trait. I need to give myself that support. I need to give myself this first, because I need to be whole before I can enter into a relationship. Before I can ever be happy with someone else, I need to be happy with myself. And that's really the secret. And for men, most of the time, it's cutting themselves some slack. It's cutting themselves the ability to be expressive, giving themselves the ability to be wrong, giving themselves the ability to just not be good enough. And for women, it's usually understanding that you don't have to give up the masculine side of yourself. What you have to do is you have to give the feminine side to the man. It's literally that simple. I just solved gender relationships. I just solved gender dynamics, relationships problems, but it's not really me. It's Carl Jung. But this is about the first 40, 50 pages of the book, and it continues to get deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And Jung is very interesting because he is, I would say, obsessed with ancient alchemical symbols, ancient esoteric symbols, and how they relate to the human psyche and how they represent certain transformations. And the rest of the book is kind of concerned with that. The rest of the book kind of talks about these ideas. But overall, I feel like when you read Jung, you'll get lost in the weeds of things. Sometimes things are very complex because Jung had such a expansive knowledge of things that you're like, I don't even know what this painting he's talking about is, but it's a very profound interpretation and I wish I knew more about it. And then the next sentence he says something and you're like, oh my God, this makes so much sense. But overall, this book is something that I think you should really pick up if you're interested in the animus, if you're interested in archetypes as a whole, if you're interested in understanding the symbols and the forms that go to shape our reality, that go to shape who we become, that go to shape everything about us as individuals, and how they kind of rule us and how they kind of guide us in a certain direction. And especially if you feel like you're going in a direction that you don't like, because it's important to recognize a problem before you can solve it. If you don't know what problem you're dealing with, if you don't know all the parameters of it, you're probably going to go the wrong way. You're probably going to do the wrong thing. And this is what we see in the modern day and age, that people know there's something wrong, but they bury themselves in a movement. They bury themselves in an ideology. They bury themselves in an ism, and every single ism is at the expense of the individual for the good of the community. And that is not something that will make you happy. It is not something that will make you whole. What will make you whole is finding yourself in relation to the world and understanding that I must find myself to be happy. And that's really the summation of Jung. When you integrate all of the traits that you've been neglecting, then everything will be amazing. And everything will be perfect. You must go to the depths of hell to confront your soul, to confront your darkness, and bring that to the light so that you can use your darker side, you can use your darker emotions, you can use the things that are buried for the sake of good, for the sake of living a good life. Because it does you nothing to bury the sadness. It does you nothing to bury the unhappiness, because it's going to bubble to the surface sooner or later, and when it does, it will have a disastrous effect on your life. Okay? I need you to understand these ideas because these ideas are so important, and this book is so interesting. It's not something that I would suggest if you've never read Jung, simply because it's very, I wouldn't say it's super complex, but I would say it's something that's very granular because it's written in a clinical setting. It's written for people who are going to actually practice psychology, and thus it's very science-based. It's not like Jung's more mystical writings, like something that would be in the Red Book or something that would be in Man and His Symbols or The Undiscovered Self, or even Memories, Dreams, Reflections, which are all books that aren't designed for the scientific mind. So go ahead and pick up any of those books if you're new to Jung. I think that's a great way to start. But again, this is one of his fundamental ideas, and I think it's probably the one that affects us most. I think the roles and the images and the idealization that we see ourselves falling into has a great effect on what we are trying to become and why we are so unhappy, because what we're doing is we're aiming for something that's beyond our reach. We're aiming for something that's beyond our capabilities. We can never embody the ideal. We can certainly chase it and we can certainly get close, but the fact is, like, you need to follow your own path. You need to find your own journey. You must go on your own individuation process and learn what it means to be you. Learn what it means to make yourself happy. Learn what it means to be happy with what you have now, because if you're not happy now, you'll never be happy. I love you guys so much. I will link this book in the description. Thank you guys so much. Peace out. I will catch you in the next one.